All right, guys, if you want to grab some food as you start, that's all good. Who's saying grace? Grace. That's not really funny, hey? That's my attempt at being funny. I'll just watch everybody get their food. Yep, it feels that way. Yes. Well, there's no singing today, so that'll be all right.
Lovely warm croissants.
Lovely warm croissants coming in. Croissant. Je suis un croissant. I haven't, no. I'm just letting everybody go first. I'm just really humble and, you know.
Just means you can eat everything that's left.
Yeah.
How many times you had breakfast before you got
Me? Very early. Although, Andy, I could do with a coffee if you are feeling excited about doing that. Black, no sugar. Yes. I was going to say black, no milk, but that would be the same thing. All right, I'm going to start with the acknowledgement of country. As we start today, I would like to acknowledge the traditional owners of the land on which we are meeting today, the Wurundjeri people of the Kulin Nation, and pay my respects to their elders, past, present, and emerging. Today we do church on land that was stolen and never ceded. Hartwell is a fully affirming community and fully committed to being a safe place for all people who are connected to this community, regardless of gender, sexuality, family background, economic situation, and regardless of how old you are, where you come from, what abilities you have, what languages you speak, what religion, spiritual path, tradition, and ethical conviction. Everyone is welcome here, and we want everyone to feel safe here. Helen, I think you're going to come and light the candle for us. Sorry, it looks like you were about to get your food. It's just it's not happening, is it? Thank you. Thank you. What? You want us to put our head in the sand? That's a pretty cool candle. It's funny, these cups remind me of my dad. So it's been weird. I haven't seen these cups for years. But since I've come here, I've noticed you've got a lot of them. But my dad's office used to have these, so whenever I'd go visit him, these were the cups that I would have. So I find myself thinking about my dad every Sunday. Yeah, which is really cool. Thank you, Helen, for lighting the candle. Rosemary has put out an amazing spread, and you're about to eat, and I'm about to ask you to come up. So sorry about that. But yeah, Rosemary leads the hospitality portfolio for us and has organized this amazing spread with her team this morning. So she's going to come up and say a little bit about that, but also we're going to do a survey, which is very exciting. So all begin to be very excited as Rosemary comes up to share that.
All on the handheld today. Welcome to our brunch. She's not here yet, but the person we need to thank most for this is Fiona, because she sourced about 90% of the food you're eating with her dumpster diving. So, and then the team, Anne and Barb, both Barbs, and John and I have been, did all this together, and it's come up really well. So I hope, when Fiona gets here, we'll have to give her a round of applause. As Brian said, I lead the hospitality wing of the church, and I'm very keen to see hospitality move from just being inside, like events like this, to being an outside thing as well, being hospitable to people outside. And one of the things we already do, which sort of informally, is support Jane and David with their food truck. Our supporters sort of been Barb Richards does some help with them for things, and they use the kitchen down at Highfield Road to cook the main meal mostly, because it's a big commercial stove down there. And I was talking to Jane, finally we managed to talk together, and I said, what could we do to help support you with this? And what would be good for her is if about 3 of us went every Monday afternoon, not the same 3, it'd be a roster, to help with she makes biscuits and things that she then hands out to the people at the food truck on the Tuesday. Oh, in case you don't know, what Jane and David do is they run a food truck every Tuesday night down at St Albans, and they feed over 100 people out of their food truck. And they do it all up to, and 200 is the most, and that is the most they can possibly do. But it's, between 100 and 200 people every Tuesday night. So I think it'd be nice if we could help with, on the Monday afternoon, she's often making the dessert things. So Barb's done a lot of rhubarb for her, and so making the crumble topping, and then she hands those, they get individually containered, and she hands those out to people. The photos you're looking at here is from a recent, because we actually do hospitality for outside. This is a recent dinner we had for my choir. Every year on the solstice, we have our soup on the solstice. And 40 of us sat down in the hall out there and ate soup and grazing platters and things, and it was good fun. And, those sort of meals actually aren't that hard to coordinate. If you have a few people, it was just 5 people made soups and 5 people did platters, and it was a good night. So we have the facilities here and down at Highfield Road to do things, and I think we should think about doing those more. Now, the survey, this is a much more pointed survey, asking actually what you want to do and specific things. It asks for your name, so I know who to contact, because that was one of the problems with the other surveys. I didn't know who'd said, yes, I'd like to go to a movie group, because it was anonymous. I've sent it out via the MailChimp this morning, so if it should have arrived if you want to do electronically. Otherwise, there are paper versions here. You don't have to do it right now. You can do it at home later. I didn't bring any pencils or pens. So hopefully people have got their own pens or pencils. There are some apparently.
On top of the shelf, just on your left, inside, the sound desk. Yep. In the sound area. Sound area, yes.
Yep, in the office, yeah. Sorry.
The new one.
Any questions? Yes.
Thank you for the breakfast.
Oh, well, thank the whole team, because when Fiona gets here, we'll have to thank her especially, because she, as I said, she found all the food, and so she did an amazing job. Okay, so. Oh, yeah, sorry.
We've been very fortunate with our housing group. Cole and his group have been working hard on looking at what we're going to do, and we potentially have a woman with 2 children possibly moving into Highfield Road, which would be very exciting if they did, because the kids go to the school behind. But I had offered to Cole to maybe put a hamper together, and we've been talking about, do we fill her pantry, what can we do? And there's... And the suggestion is that Barb has a lot of pasta, but if there are people who would either like to donate stuff or give us money, Anne and I are thinking that maybe if this all works out and this woman moves in, we will look at going and buying some stuff and maybe with Fiona's help, we may be able to give her a good welcome into the place. So if you think you'd like to be involved, can you let me know? And also, we've got dish at our house. The lift isn't working, but it's clean, and we're looking forward to having people. So if you're wanting to come, can you let me know?
Sorry, can you back up a bit? What did I just agree to?
If we had someone moving into Highfield Road family, maybe stocking her pantry. Barb's meeting there on Tuesday to show her and see, and then Cole will have to get electricity on, and then Cole will give us a final date.
So looking for the people online, looking at 2 or 3 weeks' time,
And if
hopefully.
anyone online is interested in donating to help this woman, I'm happy to take your money.
Yeah, we'll take money.
Thank you.
All right, so I missed a bit with the surveys that are going out, right? Yep, and there's very fancy pencils and pens here, which is pretty cool. Fiona, I'm going to ask you to come up. Was that bad timing?
Surveys up here, and if people want to take one.
Yep. Awesome. And if you can fill it out here, I learned that from teaching, that you always get students to do the surveys in class, otherwise you never get them done. So make sure you can do that. Would be awesome. So that's true. So Fiona has done some amazing things in the Christ Candle space. So I'm just going to ask her to share what she's done, and then we'll talk about how we use that.
It's Sarah's fault. For those who haven't worked it out yet, I make a few candles. I've been working with beeswax for about 10 years, and over the last couple of years, a fair bit of the work I've been doing is making really, really small candles that are timed to last certain amounts of time and all that kind of thing, become popular, doing some ceramics and whatever. So after Easter, when I had a little bit of a display here, for those of you who are curious about what I do during a sermon, Sarah pinched a number of the pebbles and said, bill me for these. And I said, what are they for? She said, for church. And I said, well, that's dumb. Don't bill me for those. So I don't know whether they're around. They haven't been put out yet. That's okay. Oh, well, you can if you want, yeah. So I've put together a little box, because Sarah said she wanted to have them on all the tables. So we've got like little boxes that'll go onto the tables that have got like little candles and little pebbles that'll stand them up. The thought being that if you don't want to come all the way up here, they'll be on tables and you can use them, and we can just refill the little things. That's, yeah.
Thank you. So we're going to have a look at them in a second. They're pretty cool. And I must say, I do find it quite cathartic, like when I'm talking and I see you working away there. I don't know what it is. It's really, really good for me. All right, so...
Well,
all right.
I stole the design from the top box.
Yep.
That's the church logo on the top.
This is pretty cool. It's hard to kind of hold that horizontal. You might need to pass it around so people...
These are, look, it's funny, a long time ago, I kept going, I want some pebbles that I can put candles in. And I couldn't work out how to, without costing a fortune, drill holes in stones. But these ones are actually just made from clay. And of course, once they're fired up, they look like a little stone. They're flattened and whatever. And we've got like little tiny versions of these. They burn for about 30 minutes, which is about what anyone needs, and little jars of matches. So it'll be like that. If you find that on your table and you don't want to walk all the way up here, or you want a flame to warm yourself, because there's also something cathartic about watching a flame, I think, close. They will be around, I think, in future weeks on tables.
Can we give Fiona a hand and just thank you for that? All right. Okay. The people online, I think I'm looking at the camera. It was lovely last week. I was with Michael in the sound desk, pretending to know that I could learn something. And there were so many people online having some pretty interesting conversations. We see you. And Lynn, it's your birthday today, so happy birthday to you online. Which is really exciting. We're going to sing. All right, let's try that. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday, dear Lynn. Happy birthday to you. Hip hip hooray! Hooray! Hip hip hooray! And thanks for your patience with us online, folks. Sometimes we get the mic a little bit mixed up, like I did with Fiona, and then I have Michael saying, put it aside. So we're trying to get better at that to make sure you can hear everything that's going on. Anne Koa is going to come up now, and we're going to do an Irish dance. I'm joking. I just realized this morning that there's obviously the South African history, but there's also a strong Irish history. So genetically for both of us, and a whole bunch of, we've got a lot of stuff in common, which is really, really cool. So over to you, Anne.
Thank you. Good morning, everyone. Hang on while I put my glasses on. So do you want to tell everybody what I'm doing, Brian?
Yeah, I might as well. So Andrew led us 2-3 weeks ago, I think it was now, just a song that is meaningful to them and why. And so we'll be doing a few of these over the year. And so I've asked Anne as well to do that for us today. Yep.
Thank you. Got it. Good morning, everyone. Well, I suppose you all remember that a few weeks ago, Andrew Watt shared his song Dream Weaver with us. And it was in such an engaging and interesting way that when he finished, I remember thinking, oh, pretty the poor mug who has to follow that. Andrew has set the bar quite high. And then I was talking to Andrew after it, and he was saying that by doing this, we share a bit more about ourselves, that you will learn and we'll have deeper connections. And I thought, wow, that is such a brilliant idea. I'm going to so look forward to hearing everybody give their stories. And soon after that, Brian tapped me on the shoulder and said, would you like to do it? And my instant reaction was no. It was more physical than that, wasn't it? It was more, oh, no. What are we doing? So here I am. Doing this particular task is a challenge for me for two main reasons. First, standing with a microphone in front of a group of people expecting to hear something wise or at least interesting, I get incredibly nervous. You can hear it already. My knees wobble, my hands are shaking, and my throat gets so dry that when I swallow, you're going to think I'm crying. So if you see this happen, don't worry. I'm not having some sort of extreme medical emergency. But last week, Julie shared a quote that felt as though she was reading my mind and speaking directly to me. The quote was from Joan Chittister. Fear is not the opposite of courage, it is the catalyst of courage. Now, I'm not suggesting that me standing up here is in any way courageous or brave, but it certainly takes me out of my comfort zone, something this group's encouraging me to do all the time. But I'll never go camping. The second reason for choosing the music, is difficult. It's like choosing your favourite grandchild, and next month I'll have 10 of them. So there are so many, and it constantly changes depending on my mood, my surroundings, the people I'm with, or even a random moment. So recently I walked into a theatre and I heard a song I hadn't thought about in years. I found myself dancing and singing as I went upstairs. Don't worry, I was early, nobody was there and nobody saw me. Music has an incredible ability to transport us to different times and places, and selecting just one song to share is difficult. So I made a list, a very long list. Some songs that didn't make the cut include Eagle Rock, a nostalgic anthem from countless 21st birthdays celebrated in wool sheds throughout rural Victoria. Vivaldi's Four Seasons, Spring. A piece that never fails to uplift and transport me to my happy place. The Sounds of Silence and other similar protest songs which sparked profound discussions at St Bridget's College, Horsham, about our roles in recognising and addressing different injustices in the world. These discussions continue to shape and influence how I respond to issues today. I love anything by Amy Winehouse and Tina Turner, As some of you know, her Simply the Best song I'm saving for my funeral. I could do When the Saints Come Marching In, but maybe not this season. The list could go on, including some that are not appropriate for this gathering. Oh, stop it. All the songs on my very long list are dear to me and represent different facets of my life and experiences. So, to give you some context about why I chose this particular song that you are about to hear, I need to share the backstory. Once upon a time, there was a sweet, naive couple named Anne and John on a boat in the middle of a river in Europe. On the same boat were a big group of middle-aged delinquents who sat at a big table enjoying their food, their wine and each other's company. Yes, they were the party group. They were friendly and welcoming, and slowly John and I were drawn into their orbit. We didn't drink or party as hard as they did, but John tried. At the end of the trip, Danny mentioned to me they all attended the same church in Surrey Hills and suggested we drop by sometime. I had a complete, oh my God moment. Not in the religious divine intervention sense you might be thinking, more, oh my God, that crazy party group are a bunch of religious fanatics letting their hair down far away from home. At the same time, John and I were going through a crisis of conscience as we were still attending our Catholic church during the whole child abuse George Pell scandal. We were disillusioned and searching for an alternative. So looking for something new, we tentatively dropped into the avenue, convincing ourselves that if it was completely weird, we'd slowly sneak out the back and never be seen again.
And you're still here.
But from this very first service we attended, we knew we were in the right place. A place that nurtures and deepens our faith in countless ways. Sorry. Each person who stands up here each week is not only a friend, but also someone who, with intelligence, empathy and eloquence, encourages me to see the world differently, challenges me to grow as a person, or teaches me something new. They always leave me feeling hopeful and optimistic. This community has become profoundly important to me, providing support, encouragement and inspiration in ways I never expected. By the way, 2 songs that were played during the services in those early days happened to be on my extensive list. They were Aretha Franklin's Respect, used by Andrew Bruce and David Goodwin, and REM Everybody Hurts, used by Katrina, highlighting to me how each service could be quite unique, not confined to a set formula or a single individual's perspective, something I really wasn't used to. The diversity of different leaders underscored the inclusive and multifaceted nature of this community, where different voices and experiences are celebrated and a place where creativity is valued. Another reason I feel a connection to this song is through my mum, an amazing woman who had felt at home sitting here this morning. I know the song was meaningful to her, not only because she had it on a tea towel, oh that's important, but more importantly because she had the words on bookmarks she gave to family members on particular significant occasions. This was Mum's way of blessing us on our life's journey, a symbolic expression of love, hope and goodwill. Not long after we started attending the Avenue, Mum died suddenly. During some of the services, when David sang the song, I would get a lump in my throat and a tear in my eye. Fortunate enough, we were still facing the front then. I had a reserved seat up the back, so nobody noticed. By now, would you've guessed my song is The Irish Blessing. Every time I hear it, I feel grateful to have found you all and the sense of belonging I feel in this community. So thank you all for your friendship and for the ways you continually inspire and support each other. Although I wish David could be here to sing the song, Sarah has used her magic technological powers and found a way to play David singing and leading us all in song, the way that is most meaningful to me. So please join me in listening to The Irish Blessing, a song that represents the connections we share in this community.
Yeah, you can sit down.
Oh, Dave, you're going to come up. I'm going to step aside from the microphone because that's a wise thing for me to do.
May the road rise to meet you. May the wind be always at your back. May the sun shine warm upon your face. The rains fall soft upon your fields. And until we meet again, may God hold you in the palm of their hand. May God hold you in the palm of their hand.
Can we give Anne a round of applause? That was brave and courageous. I didn't look like you were shaking from the side. No. The first time I spoke in church. You want to say something, Andrew? Just hang on a second. Make sure we can hear these guys online. Like guys online can hear us, I should say.
Well, I think Anne was that good that it's just the first of many that she's going to be.
I'm going to look at my roster on Monday morning and see what's happening. Yeah.
Highly motivated to get out of speaking yourself, are you?
Yeah, Fiona's saying to the online guys that I'm motivated to get out of speaking, and I found a secret weapon. I remember the first time I ever gave a sermon in church, like I must have drunk a litre of water, like my tongue was stuck to the top of my mouth. It was terrifying. I think it lasted about 8 minutes, but anyway. What's that?
The terror or the sermon?
The terror or the sermon, Fiona's saying both, yeah. But yeah, how amazing that that's the song that Anne picks to kind of represent this community and the very special place that it is. And it is a very special place. And we've got another very special person who is alive, who has not been well since she has returned. So Merryl, do you want to come and grab this seat over here? We're down to one mic today, the other one's on sabbatical. So hopefully this one sticks around. Otherwise it'll be interesting. So how many people, just out of a show of hands, knows that Merryl goes on these dialogues? Yeah? Right. Dialogues. I'm kind of giving a meta framework for it. So it's really important work, and it's something that we want to honour today by doing this interview with you, Merryl. Yeah. And so we're going to listen about what the dialogue is so we can learn, but also the importance of dialogue. The world is a very complicated place. I just heard this morning from someone that there was an attempted assassination on Donald Trump, right? And so the importance of dialogue is needed more than ever in the world today. So, Merryl, can you tell us a little bit about the dialogue you're involved in, just kind of broad brushstrokes, and then we'll get into the nitty-gritty.
Okay. So, just a bit of quick context. The Second Vatican Council, which possibly you know a bit about, happened in the 60s, where it was kind of like a new reformation for the Catholic Church, where the Pope at the time called for a kind of repentance in the Church for not recognising other Christians as Christian, among many other things. I'm not going to give you the whole Vatican Council stuff, but what is pertinent to me is that he then set up a pontifical council for promoting Christian unity. I have said that for 20 years and managed to sort of get it out without tripping too much over my teeth. They've now changed the name to the Dicastery for promoting Christian unity, which is a little bit easier. And that became in charge of initiating as many international dialogues with international Christian bodies as they possibly could. They've got something like 40 going. So if you think about that being set up towards the end of the 60s, early into the 70s, the one with the Disciples of Christ started in 1977. So it was one of the early ones, and that would have been because the Disciples of Christ would have sorted out. They're very they're part of us, obviously, but they're the sort of strand in the US where our movement split into three different parts, and they're the strand that remained absolutely committed to ecumenism. And so they have worked and worked and worked, and they have their own kind of dicastery, which is called the Disciples Ecumenical Consultative Council. I wish they'd come up with snappy names for these things. So that started in 77. It's now in its sixth phase. I joined it in phase 4. Is this a new question, or is that all you need for the moment?
Just keep it on.
Okay, right, okay. Yeah. So the point of the dialogue, we will always say, and I was stunned the first time I went to hear this, that the point of the dialogue, the goal of the dialogue is full, visible unity. I didn't think that, that could possibly be a goal of a dialogue between our two different communions. But everybody kind of says, well, the Spirit's still moving. This is, if we don't keep that hope ahead of us, what's keeping us moving? What the sort of more down-to-earth goal is that we understand each other. And so dialogue is very much about listening to the other with an ear to understanding. And the first time I was on it, we had this wonderful ecumenical theologian, disciples guy called Michael Kinnaman. Fantastic, very, very experienced theologian. And he said, we must always listen to the other at our best. There is, at their best. There is no point just getting caught up in the bad things that happen in every church, because there are always bad things happening in the churches. And if that's what drives us, we will never get anywhere. And that was actually quite a conversion point for me, because when I started it, all of the sexual abuse children stuff was coming out. The particular group that was the team on the Catholic side at that stage was quite a difficult one. And one of the guys on that, who was not an experienced ecumenist, wanted to get into the whole thing of, but your church is ordaining gay people. How can we possibly talk to you? And I'm sort of drawing myself up to, well, your church. And then Michael comes in and says that, and it was like, oh yeah, I'm glad he got in there before I sort of let fly. So it really is a very, very careful thing that we do, that has quite sort of clear rules which you learn as you go on how to talk to somebody so that you're understanding what you're saying better, and you're saying it in a way that they will understand what you're saying as well.
Can you say more about that?
Yeah.
I think that's good for us.
Yeah. One of the things that I've found incredibly useful is how much I've learnt about us, because when you've got to explain yourselves to someone else, suddenly you realise how weird some of the things you do are, but also you understand, okay, these are the hills I'd die on, ordain women, ordaining gays, we also noted during one of the later dialogues where we had a much better relationship with the people on it, when we could say things that we couldn't have said to that earlier group. And they asked us in an out-of-session question, where we were all sort of sitting around with the wine and everything, how did we feel about the fact that our people married gays? We said, well, one of their people said, the High Court judge in the US who brought that ruling in is a Catholic. Said, how would you deal with him if he came for communion? And they had no answer. So when the trust relationship is built up, we can actually throw things back at each other that really set us back thinking about, is what I say and what I do, or is what is there in our liturgy and the way we actually program it, do they make sense? Are they is our lived theology coherent with our espoused theology? So we all learn, and it's really exciting to find what we do learn. One of the things that we do, our format, is that we start each session with a personal story. So the last phase I was on was called Christians Formed and Transformed Around the Eucharist. And each meeting we would start with a story of where we had experienced formation or transformation around a particular expression of the Eucharist. We'd all end up in tears. Everybody had a story, and we would all absolutely get into how we felt. We would all be able to say, oh, me too. And then this one is on the ministry of the Holy Spirit in the church. And again, starting off with this, where have you experienced the Holy Spirit? And I remember the one who had the most charismatic, if you like, experience was one of the Catholic priests. And he was tearing up. He didn't expect this experience, no idea where it came from. He was on an airplane at the time and just suddenly felt this incredible experience, which allowed him to understand that within his congregation and to encourage it within his congregation. So, and we were invited to speak to the cardinal who was in charge of the dicastery when we were in Rome last year, and we thought, rather than give him the dry old theology, let's share our stories with him. And we did that, and he was tearing up, and he said afterwards, that was the best meeting I've ever had. When we get, the theology has to be there, and it's there rigorously, but we're starting first from personal experience now, which has just changed everything. Yeah.
As you're talking, I'm realizing how, it's obvious, we'll know it, how social media, the internet, provides wonderful echo chambers for our views, right? So you start watching a YouTube clip and all of a sudden your feed is all, stuff that you, of course, agree with, that kind of feeds back at you, and it's so hard to get out of that even in my own life, I'm thinking back, like, where do I create spaces of difference and dialogue? It's becoming more and more unnatural to do that. I'm certainly finding that. I'm curious, like, how many years did you say you've been doing it for?
This is my 20th year this year.
20 years. So, like, why did you do it, and why do you still do it? Yeah.
Really good questions. Why I did it was easy. It was sort of started, 20 years ago I was 48. I had a lot more energy than I have now. I was really involved in a lot of ecumenical things. And I was invited, it was actually Bill Tabney. I don't know if any of you knew Bill. He was the principal of the college, and then went over to America, and he'd been part of it for some time. And he suddenly realised that he was on it as the Australian representative, and he hadn't actually lived in Australia for some years. So he suggested me, and they interviewed me and discovered, because you really do have to know what you're doing on these dialogues. You have to have some sort of experience in talking with other Christians and listening to other Christians. So they decided that I certainly had the background to be able to do it. So I went on it. With great excitement, because I was already on the National Council of Churches Faith and Unity Commission, and they had become my Christian family. We only met twice a year, but members of all the churches pretty much. Some theologians, mainly theologians, but not all of them. And meeting together and talking through all the things we talked to had become my space where I felt most myself as a Christian. I was finding church pretty boring back then, was not going terribly often. Barb came up with she's having a religious day off, an RDO. I was having a lot of religious days off. And that sort of became my place. So I was keen to see what was happening at that level. But also the first one was supposed to be in Venice, and I'd always wanted to go to Venice, so I was like, well, no, they moved it to Bari, so I went to Venice anyway because it was only a quick trip up to Bari. So one of the things I got out of it was a lot of international travel I'd never have got anyway. But meeting the people, and that first phase was really difficult. It was during a phase of, churches swing from, left to right and conservative to radical, and the Catholic Church was at the backswing of its most conservative. And they'd put people on that dialogue who should never have been on a dialogue at any level, let alone international, because they didn't want to be there. They had no experience. Not all of them. There were a couple who were terrific, but there was, for example, a Catholic Archbishop sort of retired from Christchurch, and he'd been on it a long time, and Bill Taberny had taken over as the chair of our group, and they tend to have one woman, one token woman on each, and the woman who'd been on it before me had actually said, "This is awful. I'm just saying to you, being the only woman on it is just a terrible experience." So Bill had 3 women on it. So this Archbishop accused us of having a hidden agenda, having 3 ordained women on our team. And I said, well, it's not very hidden, is it? You can't hide these. It was a very difficult experience. But one of the times when this guy was just driving me nuts, this Michael Kinnaman again, the wonderful theologian on our team, leaned forward and he said, "Basil, what I really appreciate about you is that though you clearly find this difficult, you keep coming to the table." And again, it just changed the whole way I thought about things. So this Archbishop really, really didn't like me because I was female ordained and Australian. He's a New Zealander. So, I had 3 strikes, you're out. And then one year I was the one who was providing the wine for the evening sessions, and I got all Marlborough Sauvignon Blancs. And I got Christmas cards from him from then on. And even that dialogue, by the end of the 6 years, the people on the Catholic side, some of them who'd had nothing to do with ecumenism, were going back into ecumenical councils. They were absolutely converted to the idea of ecumenical dialogue. We were in tears as we hugged each other goodbye. And I remember coming up to the Archbishop, not that one, Archbishop of Indianapolis was the co-chair, and Dan had never looked me in the eye once. And on this last session, we'd been praying for him because he'd been diagnosed with leukaemia. And in between sessions, I'd said to him, for the last year I've been praying for you. And I came forward for a blessing when he was doing Mass, and I felt absolutely seen and blessed by him. So there's movement. There's movement. We worship together twice a day. Catholics have Mass at 7:30 in the morning, and we go. We don't all, we don't have to go, but most of us usually do. And we've talked about it to say we are doing this so that we continue to feel the pain of being excluded, so that you continue feeling the pain of having to exclude us, but so that we can actually worship with you in the way that's most meaningful to you. And I found it this year almost excruciatingly painful because the new team that started the phase after that were fabulous, and most of them went on to this phase. And the new ones on it have just become wonderful too. And I said, I'm finding it unbelievably painful not being able to come forward to communion because we are family. And they say, we're finding it harder and harder to exclude you. So I'll keep going.
You answered it beautifully, whatever it was. I just want to pick up on that because that's something when the spirituality group met a week or 2 ago, I can't remember, and we were levitating as we do. No, we weren't. I thought that was going to be funny anyway. But you brought that up, and then we were having this conversation, and Andy goes, before we go on, how did everybody feel about hearing what Merryl was saying about the communion and excluded stuff? And I find myself quite emotional it was just something about that experience, and I can see it's happening again, which is so sad as the church, how we do that, and how the contrast of this beautiful space that we have here at Hartwell that refuses to exclude people from the table, and we're going to have communion soon. So yeah, I don't know. It's thank you, Merryl, for doing that and being part of that dialogue for us. I want to throw it out to everybody. If anybody has questions that they want to ask Merryl, and online as well, if you want to put something in the chat box. Anybody want to ask Merryl anything about the dialogue? Yeah, Carolyn. This is going to be fun running back and forward. We'll pull it off.
Keep you fit. I just wanted to clarify, so you went to the service that they were running, a mass at 7:30, and you were there as their friend, and yet you weren't invited to partake in communion. Is that right?
Yeah. So we approach communion. The interesting thing is, just a little bit of background, that one of the things that started us talking about the Eucharist in the first place was the discovery that we are kind of the only two communions that practice it once a week. And that both of our communions see that is the central formation point of Christians. And in fact, what they learned, and I learned, I must admit, because I didn't really understand this before, was that it was our movement that renewed the whole communion experience in the US with the Great Awakening down in Cane Ridge of having communion every week, because no churches were at that stage. And even the Catholics, the priest would be saying Mass every day, but most Catholics would come, Christmas and Easter like Anglicans. And so it was actually that renewal that brought about that sense that it's important for all to come and take communion. So we've got that great point of convergence, which we all found stunning. But for the Catholics, there is a sense of you can't have true communion unless you are unified. And for them, unity is around the bishop. And it's about apostolic succession, and they understand that as being hands laid on, passed down in ordination from the time of Peter onwards. And for us, apostolic succession is passing on the message of the apostles, the good news of the apostles. So that's the sticking point, is that, and we've pointed out the inconsistencies with their actual liturgy. If you listen to the prayers in their liturgy, they're all will come. And they're hearing that for the first time themselves in some ways and going, yeah. And in the last phase, we had the wonderful Sister Mary Collo, who taught at YTU here in Melbourne, one of my colleagues. And Mary, we were at a fabulous disciples' church one year, and the bishop leaned forward and said, "That was such a wonderful service. It's so sad that we can't all take communion together." And Mary said, "Watch me," and marched up and took communion. And because she's a nun, she can get away with anything. And she actually sent a letter with me this time saying, "Break rules, people." It said, theology follows, the rules follow practice. So change your practice and the rules will change. So I read that out to them all, and they all sort of, "Oh, so Mary." They all love Mary, but yeah, weren't doing it. So we can come forward for a blessing. So we're invited to come forward with our arms crossed, and they'll give us a blessing. But it's really quite painful. And same, when they come to ours. We take it in turns to host each year, and this year was a disciples hosting. So we all went to church at University Christian Church in Texas University, and it was fabulous. It was so high church. They're so high. They robe. They have choir boys. They have, you name it, in one of ours. No, they don't go incense. No, they don't go quite that far. And no kidding, there wasn't anything that they would have not recognised, but they passed the communion past themselves and felt the pain of being excluded. But we sort of point out to them that they're the ones who are excluding themselves. We are not excluding them.
Other questions? Yep.
Merrill, when you were talking about the last little bit of your dialogue about, or your monologue really, about how the exclusion was palpable amongst the whole group, as though almost you're at the point of breaking. I think if it was a Hollywood movie, that would be the point at which you all went, to hell with this, we'll have communion together. Can you see a point ever when you think that might happen?
I think if we weren't all there representing, it could well, and this is part of the thing. I mean, I would go to a local Catholic church and I'd go forward for communion because no one knows who I am. But when you're somewhere where you're representing your body, you really have to understand that you're there representing and you're not just there for your own personal. So that's one of the things about being on these things. The Bishop David Ricken, who is the co-chair at the moment, he's a bishop of Green Bay, Wisconsin. He's a wonderful man. He really, really has a vibrant diocese where it comes from personal experience, and it's absolutely committed to looking after the poor and needy. He's done the most amazing, and for him, really self-bearing, literally, rituals and liturgies to say sorry for the abuse in the church. You know, he's just someone who is absolutely through and through to his toenails, a representative of Christ on earth. And he said to me, I can't see why we can't at least have shared communion at first communions where there's a mixed marriage, for example, or weddings where it's a mixed marriage. You know, can't we at least make little steps forward like that? We've been talking for 40 years. But all he can do is make recommendations in his final report, and then it goes to the College of Cardinals, and then it goes to whoever goes to. So we can sort of change our minds church by church by church, but they all, because of that structure where it's the bishop, therefore the archbishop, therefore the cardinal, therefore the pope, people in churches. But there is also one of my Catholic colleagues here on the National Council of Churches Faith and Unity Commission said to me, but what they keep not understanding is that it's actually the faith of the people that drives the theology. And so if they're not listening to the faith of the people, and he said this is what's been happening with things like contraception, thank you, yeah. Contraception, things like that. The church, he said, on the whole, the church has abandoned the teaching of the church because it's not working for them. So now they're having to actually chase around and make their changes about that. Long answer to a short question.
I'm going to risk something. I didn't plan to do this, but I would love to honour Merrill by praying for her and blessing her. So if you feel so led, if you want to come up and say a prayer, if you don't feel comfortable praying, just say a blessing, because I'm aware that our movement sometimes doesn't give the honour that needs to be given to what you do on behalf of us, and it's a lot of unseen stuff that happens, but we do honour you, and we do value what you do. So yeah, if a few of us want to come up, we're just going to pray and honour and bless Merrill. Yep. Feel free to grab the mic from me if you pray and bless. That would be great so the online guys can hear. Bob.
God, we thank you for Merrill that you have brought into this world, and we thank you that you constantly guide her spirit in what you would have her represent you to do?
Merrill, may God hold you in the palm of his hand.
Merrill, we bless you. We thank you for your gift. We thank you for your energy, your courage, your wisdom, your willingness to listen, to dialogue, to represent, to engage, and give of yourself internationally, but also for us here at Hartwell. We're enormously grateful for who you are and what you do. Amen. It's probably apt that we have communion together, so just if you haven't tucked in already, feel free to do that, and be grateful for the people sitting around the table and the gift that this community is together. It's nice to be welcome and included. We're going to have the pastoral prayer in a second, and then we'll close. Just a few little announcements and stuff. We're in a kind of a winter wisdom space at the moment, kind of coming to the end of that, potentially in July, potentially, definitely. I've been hearing lots of interesting voices from people in the community. Next week is the contemplative service, and I'll be speaking about John O'Donoghue, Irish friend, as part of that space. John Rogerson, anybody remember him? Yeah? You remember?
Yes, he's online because he's responded with a donation.
Oh, he's online and responded with a donation. No, he's very holy. I mean, he's been on a 6-week mission trip around Australia, I think. Spiritual journey. There we go. You'll take that one, not the first. What was I saying? So he's going to be doing Mandela as somebody that's inspired him as well, which is really, really exciting. You'll hear more about this, and you've seen it already a little bit in some of the correspondence and stuff that's gone out, but we're going to be doing something on the Enneagram, and that's the 4th of August, and you'll hear more about that in the afternoon. That's after Nelson Mandela is with us, and that's really, really exciting. So there'll be an introduction to the Enneagram, so make sure you put that in your diary. And then the following week is Indigenous Persons Day, and Brooke Prentice, an Indigenous person, will be with us for that Sunday morning as part of our service. So there's a few things that are on the horizon, and I should probably mention, although I didn't want to mention this, but I'm being interviewed by Joy FM this Thursday night if you want to listen, so between 6 and 7 p.m. I'm feeling a little bit nervous about it already, so I thought I could get away by hiding it and not telling you guys about it, but that doesn't feel fair, so I feel convicted. Yeah, I think Anne will have to help me with the nerves. Yeah, so Craig Brown, who you'll know, I suspect some of you will know, he's been given a slot, an amazing slot on Thursday evenings between 6 and 7 to discuss spirituality and as a queer person, and how to think about spirituality, faith, and those kinds of questions. And so he'll be interviewing a whole range of people, but I sent him our Ida Hobbit recording, and that's what prompted him to say, I'd love you to come and talk about Hartwell and what's happening there. And he was saying there's not a lot of safe spaces for the queer community in Australia. And so he wanted to do that. So he's also asked me like my favourite songs, which I don't know why. So I've come up with a Pearl Jam one, Alive, and I think which captures kind of my journey a little bit. So anyway, so that's on Thursday, so between 6 and 7, so dial in for that. So yeah, lots of stuff that's going to be going on in the next month or so together, which is cool. But we're going to have the pastoral prayer now, so thank you, Julie.
So I thought we might do something a little bit different for our pastoral prayer this morning, and I'm just going to open it to anybody who would like to raise something. I'm conscious that our world is in a very fragile and volatile space at the moment. So there's lots happening in the world. There's things happening in our community. So I'm aware, Enid was just telling me that she's having real trouble with her shoulder, and we want to hold you, Enid. And Robin is having real struggles with her hip, and will be having her other hip operated on in August. But in the meantime, she's got to put up with the pain and the struggle. So yeah, we continue to hold you, Robin. But if anybody would like to mention something, I won't bring the microphone to you, but I'll repeat it so that people online can hear.
Lynn's having a tough time at the moment.
Lynn Roberts is having a tough time, so we hold you, Lynn.
Maybe we can think of all the people online that log in because they can't get here, or
Yeah, thanks, Trent. Yeah, so for you people online, you're very much part of our community, and even though you can't be with us in person, we love having you there, and we hold you in whatever's happening in your lives too.
Thanks for the joy that Baby Isla's bringing to the Vadcos and the Goodwins.
Yeah, so Tom and Grace Goodwin's little baby Isla and the joy that she's bringing to their family. And we think of John too, who's struggling with his health and pain at this time too.
All our community travellers, that they may arrive home safe and refreshed.
Our community travellers, those who are away, John and Sue somewhere up north, Andrew and Judith somewhere up north, and there's Bo and his mob are away. Yeah. So Barb's asked us to remember a friend of hers who's had open heart surgery and some complications following that. Andrew?
I really love David Rooker, and we haven't really mentioned David for a long time.
Yeah, so we hold David and Heather in our thoughts and prayers too. They have been away travelling, yeah. Let me close with a blessing from John O'Donoghue. May the light of your soul guide you. May the light of your soul bless the work you do with the secret love and warmth of your heart. May you see in what you do the beauty of your own soul. May the sacredness of your work bring healing, light, and renewal to those who work with you and to those who see and receive your work. May your work never weary you. May it release within you well springs of refreshment, inspiration, and excitement. May you be present in what you do. May you never become lost in the bland absences. May the day never burden. May dawn find you awake and alert, approaching your new day with dreams, possibilities, and promises. May evening find you gracious and fulfilled. May you go into the night blessed, sheltered and protected. May your soul calm, console and renew you. Amen.
Thanks, Julie. We're going to sing Shalom as our ending today. And Rosemary, I know I didn't ask you, but will you sing for us? Michael, will you come out and sing for us, mate?
Yes.
1 second. 1, 2. No, that's good. We didn't plan the John O'Donoghue thing. It was a synchronous moment. I'll claim that one. Yeah. Thanks, my friend.
Shalom to you now. Shalom, my friends. May God's full mercies bless you, my friends, in all your living and through your loving. Christ be your shalom. Christ be your shalom.
Amen. Grab some more food. Just leave some for me, please. I haven't eaten yet. Otherwise, we'll see you next week for the contemplative service. Rosemary, you want to say something? Yep.
I forgot to mention the market table out there, and there'll be some eggs on there too because we had too many eggs. So, yeah, if you just make a donation into the box, that'll be great. Thanks.
One, I never liked colours, but two, the kidney problems I have, I've got issues with sensory stuff coming through. Like, it's like things come alive to ear, phone, joy, whatever. So, and, you know, like, I've got one of those pain, so we can't really shoot it with my head, going to get in trouble for, you know, being a man. Well, we did it. You know, my high school was We did it. So, yes, absolutely like to be able to that. Well, 2 years ago when we started doing it, and they were saying that it was around the top. And now we know that it's
I've got a few of them. So when I do that, it might be helpful. I will be text stuff from Haven't I told you that? Story today. Everybody close your eyes, close your eyes. So these people are trying to get over their fear of flying, have a simulated crash. Engineers